Podcast live. I'm Greg Mahochko. Joining me as always, he's the founder and fearless leader of CornNation.com, John Dam Johnston. Hello, John.
Hi. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm great. It's a wonderful day.
Why don't you tell the good people watching and listening at home the kind of candies that you're enjoying tonight?
I am enjoying Billy Goats, a microdosing THC candy that is legal here in the state of Minnesota because they help with my headaches.
Do they though?
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's such a tiny amount of THC that, do I look stoned, dudes?
No, but I know you've been complaining about headache all week long. So
It's been pretty nasty this week. It's been a great week. It's a great week to be alive.
Sure. We are honored to be joined by our Corn Nation volleyball writer extraordinaire, Beth Merrigan. Beth, sure do wish we were having you on under better terms, but the Nebraska volleyball season came to an end today with that sweet 10 o'clock tip-off. We're just going to get right into it. That's right, folks. We're going to be talking volleyball. We're going to be talking basketball. And at some point, yes, a little football. Hang tight. Stay with us. It's all coming down on the 5 Heart Podcast this week. But Beth, first of all, welcome to the show. I believe in your live debut.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done this live before. And yeah, we should have done it sooner in the volleyball season. But now it's over. And so we will talk about what happened.
And yeah, I actually watched it from my office this morning. Friend of the show, Josh, said, "Are you watching / listening?" I said, "I've been driving, so no." So he sent me the link to listen to the Husker radio broadcast, and then I found it on Hulu, so I was watching it there, and watched from in and out. Most of it, though, from the end of the first set. It wasn't the cleanest match of volleyball I've ever seen Nebraska play.
Yeah, the one set that was clean was the first set, and Nebraska looked excellent. They were prepared. They were ready to go. They won the set with really no problem. Everybody was firing on all cylinders. Everybody was attacking. The ball was being distributed to every single hitter, even the middles, which has been something that we did not do very well throughout the season. Caitlin Horde had 3 or 4 kills in that first set. So we looked really good in the first set. And if you started watching then you thought, oh, Nebraska's got this. But then set 2 and 3 and definitely 4. And then we're not even going to maybe talk about 5. That one hurts. So we looked different after set 1, and mainly because passing. Oregon changed some things in set 2, but the things that we could control was our passing was not as good in set 2, so that became a much more back and forth, point for point sort of set, which ultimately Oregon took set 2.
Wait a minute. I watched. I think the first 3 sets, and when I left, we were up 2-1. I had to go to the neurologist. If you move those appointments, you don't get another one for 6 months. But I thought, okay. I texted my wife. We're up 2-1. It's been really close. The whole all the sets were like 1-2 points apiece. You know what I mean? Nobody got a really big lead in anything. And what the hell? What the hell happened? I said we look good. We should win. And the next text I get is, we lost. That's what I got from her.
Good. So it felt like set 2 just snuck away, right? So if you watched set 1, we were in full control. All of our hitters were hitting well, and Oregon really couldn't do anything. It looked like set 2 just snuck away. We lost 24-26. We had a couple errors and pivotal moments. We come back and we won set 3. We're back in control. In set 4, again, it was back and forth the whole time, very close score. And then, the part I really just can't let go is very, towards the end, we ran out of subs. You only get so many subs in volleyball. We sub a lot because we run the 6-2. We've got a sub in a new setter. We've got a sub in another right side. We run out of substitutes. And Coach Cook said he made a conscious decision to leave Ani Evans in to set, which means eventually she comes to the front row. She's 5'9", and she's never played the front row this season. But what he bet on was that Maisie Bosinger would come in and serve for Becca Alec, one of our middles, and that with her 3 rotations in the back row, we would win the set during that time, and that she would never get to the front row. Well, she got to the front row. And so now we have at 30 to 30, 30 to 31, something like that, we have Maisie Bosinger and Ani Evans, both way under 6 foot in the front row. And that in those rotations is where we ended up losing set 4.
Oh, okay.
And so that was a whole different thing. And set 5 was different. Obviously, we had our subs all back. And we started very tight in set 5. We were playing not to lose. We were setting the ball perfectly, which means it is not perfect, right? Because you're trying way too hard. You're tight, and you're just going to do things. Just play. And it's an easy thing to say, and it's a really hard thing to do. But in set 5, we were very tight, and we got down by a lot. And really only once we switched to the 5-1 to get out of the rotation that we were stuck in, that Oregon was scoring a bunch of points in, then we started playing a little looser. And we just what do we have to lose at this point? It was 14-5, 14-4 at something.
Was it really? In the 5th set?
It was bad. And so it's amazing that we, kudos. The girls kept playing. They kept going after balls. Lindsay Krause blocked a ton. But the 3 points previous to that, she'd hit 2 balls out of bounds. And it was playing perfect. It was playing, I don't want to lose this set. And obviously you have to flip that. You have to play to win, and you have to play loose, and you have to play with confidence. And the mindset piece there, which is hard to switch. You have to get to set 5 and play quick game to 15. And we did not come in to set 5 with the play to win attitude.
What is it about Nebraska, all the sports programs, where sometimes the coaching staff just fails to make adjustments? Like it was 25-14 in that first set, I think was the final, maybe 25-16, something like that. It was well in hand, no doubt, however you want to phrase it. And then something happens in that second, and the Oregon makes adjustments, and Nebraska didn't counter. And I know we talked, or you talked here just a few moments ago about the substitution issue in the 4th set, but I feel like a lot of that could have been prevented. Am I wrong?
No, that's an interesting thing. Nebraska's strengths usually in most seasons are being able to adjust. And I think that is a critical skill, especially in the NCAA tournament. And so as you're coming to the end of the Big Ten season, assessing the team's ability to adjust during the match, and it tells you a lot about how they're going to do in the NCAA tournament. And I think it's odd that this specific Nebraska team has not been able to adjust very well. They win big or they lose big, I've assessed.
Oh, that's a good point.
And that happened today. So we know Nebraska won the first set, and they won it really well. In set 2, Oregon moved their rotations, meaning each of their players started in different locations, right? They just kind of rotated around that 6-person circle. And they also started a new right side. So their usual right side, who had most of the repetitions, that's who we probably prepared for, was a left-handed 6'2" right side hitter. They subbed in a right-handed 6'3" something. So she was very different, right? She's going to hit the ball at a different contact point. She has different regular shots that she likes to hit. And she played like 31 games, not matches, games this whole season. Most of the other girls in that team played 127. Wow. So we were not expecting her. She ended up with 13 kills against us today. So this Lewis player was somebody that we never adjusted to. We never stopped her. And she was a role player, right? She just came in to stop the bleeding. Oregon was bleeding after set 1. Lewis comes in to stop the bleeding. We got to change something. We got to do something else. And the Nebraska team did not adjust to her. I think the strength of this Nebraska team was being prepared, going through the pre-match warm-ups and doing all of the drills for the players we know. But we saw time and time again when somebody threw something new at them that they were not expecting, that they were not prepared for, they had not watched film on, they did not have the strength and the ability to be able to adjust for the most part in the match.
Going to that, that substitution, that change that Oregon made, when you talk about preparation, you mentioned contact points and timing, but there's also, I'm sure when the team watches film, or any team watches film, they see kind of the rhythm or routine of how a hitter will approach the ball. Now there's somebody who, as you mentioned, 31, 35 games that there's significantly less film on. That's something you have to either pick up on very quickly and shut it down, or what we have happened today, which is she mowed us down.
Yeah, I think you get half a set to watch her and adjust to her, get burned by her. She hits past you once and Maddie Kubik adjusts and she lines up on her differently the next time. And that did happen. We had positive touches. The other player for Oregon who really was amazing was this freshman outside hitter named Mimi Collier. I mean, she had 71 swings on the ball today. 71 swings. Just swing your arm 71 times and see how it feels. Just try it. And she ended up killing the ball. It went down on the court and nobody got it back up 26 times. So she was virtually, we blocked her a few times, but virtually unstoppable today.
26 kills?
26, 2-6.
Okay. That sounds
their distribution,
unfair.
like they don't spread their ball out very much. They have the three hitters essentially. They have two left sides and then a right side that kill the ball, and then their middles get a couple here and there. And in general, that is not the recommended solution to the problem. Like if the problem is win the game, the solution is distributed across 5, or in Nebraska's case, 6 hitters. And we did that relatively well. I mean, from the statistics, you don't ask. Maybe you set the middles more. I think late in the match, the setters needed to give the ball back to Horde more specifically. Maybe not as much to Alex. She had some errors, but our distribution was good. You get a B on that grade today, setters. But Oregon's grade was always going to be give the ball to the outside hitters, and Mimi Collier got it a ton, and she killed it a ton.
Brian Bauer said, hard to see John Cook getting out-coached. He must have had an off morning, not enough caffeine. Let's talk about just the way the tournament is structured and scheduled. 10 o'clock Central Time. Oregon is Pacific Time. That's 8 o'clock in the morning, for them. Why does the NCAA hate volleyball?
Well, the good news is they hate it less than they did last year and the year before. So they think they're improving, and so they're giving themselves a pat on the back. It still has to get better. Yeah, and John Cook talked about this a lot. ESPN has multiple channels. I know they spread the games out, and I appreciate being able to watch them all, although I'm missing one right now because we're on here talking. But San Diego was finishing up with their match, so they're probably going to advance forward, and so it'll probably be San Diego versus Stanford. But anyways, there just has to be it has to be better. There has to be more channels. They did split it up last year where there's a Thursday, Saturday, this day in between the two matches, which are huge matches. This is deciding who's going to the Final Four. That's an improvement, and respect the players. Like, give these women a night off. Nebraska's match was like 2.5 hours. You don't think they need a rest day after that? And so giving them the rest day is good. Thank you. Continue to improve and continue to acknowledge that there's a fan base that cares and wants to see the highest quality games at the best times. And yes, 10 o'clock in the morning is not the time.
I think ESPN really wants to sell those ESPN Plus subscriptions. They really want to sell them.
Yeah, money.
Yeah. Well,
as I mentioned, I had it on my phone at the office, and I'm sitting there watching it. Myself, a couple of colleagues are just standing around, and we're figuring out what to do for lunch, and I'm just like this, for the benefit of the people who are just listening to this. I'm, mimicking looking at my phone in an empty hand, and they're like, sports team? I said Nebraska Volleyball, and I got a lot of weird looks for that. I was like, really? Volleyball? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of a big thing. I said, it's one of the few financially self-sustaining women's college athletic programs in the country. And you think of like UConn basketball, Tennessee women's basketball, kind of at the Pat Summit, height. But there's something special about Nebraska volleyball. There's something special about the Nebraska fans. And there's something great about the experience. I don't want to talk about John Cook because it's a rare, I don't want to call it a miss. Things started to tail off there at the end in the last few weeks, but I think this is the first Elite Eight that Nebraska's missed in the last 11, 12 years, something like that. I mean, where am I at accuracy-wise there, Beth?
I don't do so well with all the streaks, but it's been a long time. This is a miss. You're right. This is a streak, and I don't keep as track of those as I do of the wins and the losses.
That's fair. How would it have been different if Kenzie Knuckles was out there? Honestly.
Yeah, I think her overall play is amazing, and the evidence of that is one of the other tri-captains, Maddie Kubik. Her numbers since Kenzie Knuckles has been injured are vastly different than what they were before. And it's hard to wrap your head around that because they play very different positions. Maddie Kubik's an outside hitter. Kenzie Knuckles is a defensive specialist. The main thing they do together is they serve receive. And so Maddie had to pass a ton more balls. You'd have to run the numbers, but they're not going to serve the ball. Opposing teams don't serve the ball to Lexi Rodriguez, right? Because that's just handing Nebraska a point. So you're going to serve the ball to someone other than Kenzie Knuckles. So now you're either serving to Maddie Kubik, so her serve receive repetitions went up, or sometimes Allie Batenhorst. So now she's playing back row and serve receiving more. Kenzie Knuckles was missed for her all-around carrying the load, specifically on serve receive. And now when you're getting later into the tournament and teams are blocking more, her block coverage is key, and block coverage gives you another chance. Hitters can swing freely and give whatever shot they want when they know they're covered. I can hit as hard as I want, wherever I want, because someone is behind me and I get another shot. Our team gets another shot. So there's something playing there in the hitters' minds as they go up for their attack. And then there's just less balls coming back up because Kenzie Knuckles dug balls off blocks coming back to us. And then she dug balls in general. She played middle back defense, and she's right next to Lexi Rodriguez. So you have this, beacon of balls just coming back at you as the setter. They're going to come back up out of this corner. Think about if you're, watching the Oregon match today, how many balls went to a deep corner that didn't come back up? A couple of them went deep, like on Nicklin Haynes, and they looked like they were going to go out, but they dropped. They had some top spin to them. Kenzie Knuckles pursues those balls, and she's fast enough that she gets to those balls. And so you can just count the points in how many more chances did we get, because Knuckles keeps the ball in play for the hitters to swing freely again and know that she's also there covering them. So I think there's a vocal leadership and a physical presence, but she produced opportunities for Nebraska that is hard to replicate with players who are carrying other loads. Your two outside hitters, Batenhorst and Kubik, are carrying these other loads and taking a high number of swings and a high number of serve receive reps, and now they're doing what Kenzie Knuckles was doing previously. Big loss.
When we talk about losses, from the personnel standpoint, what type of attrition is Nebraska going to face? Because there were some surprising names getting into the transfer portal last year. Who is in your mind, or who's already said, I think Kenzie said that her career is pretty well done with the injury, right?
Yeah, she had announced just prior to in her injury, she and Maddie Kubik are seniors, as your true seniors, not the super senior with the COVID year thing. So they're seniors, but they had announced separately, but had talked to each other and coach that they would not return. And then Caitlin Horde is a super senior, so she has no eligibility, as well as Nicklin Hames. So we know those four, based on what they've said or their eligibility, can't come back. Ani Evans is a senior, but she's not spoken up about her return. But everybody else is unspoken for and has eligibility remaining and is not active in the portal right now. So, that portal thing is like a gravitational force or whatever it is. It's a free electron in our world that is just wreaking havoc. But
it's one of those, the grass is always greener, on the other side. But
yeah.
I think we all can attest that the grass is greener where you fertilize and water it. So, Brian, with another good, I think, observation or at least question, says, if Orr was able to take over as setter and Nicklin playing defensive specialist as intended, would have that made a difference in how our season ended given Knuckles' injury? A little personnel and roster question there.
The Orr question, there's so many what ifs. If she had been able to run the offense this year, then most coaches, and I would be one of them, would tell you that the 5-1 system, 5 hitters, 1 setter, is the ideal system for volleyball. 6 hitters and 2 setters. 6 hitters is great. You have great blocks. You have great hitters. But a 5-1 is the most traditional offense. Translate that to some football analogy for me. That is the way that the game is played cleanly and the best. Nebraska did it well, and so did a lot of other teams with the 6-2 this year. If Orr had been able to do that from the beginning, then yes, we would have had more options defensively come this injury and this time of year. You can back that up and get to the nasty topic of Akana. If Akana had still been here and we'd had a different defensive specialist back, I'm sorry.
I forgot about that.
Let's go away from that. Okay,
what
let's.
The hell?
All right, we're even madder now. Sorry.
Breaking my heart again.
Yes, that would have given us more options. Hames is a great defensive player. Question mark if she would have ever been a great serve receive passer. We never got to find out if that skill developed for her, and that's a big skill that you need a defensive player to be able to do. Kenzie Knuckles could do it. Akana could do it. Rodriguez can do it. We didn't know if Hames could ever do it, but yeah, if Orr could have run this system and not, she had a lot of ball handling errors throughout the year and missed sets. You could just see the ball was in a bad spot, and that caused the offense to not run. I can't hit my best shot because I don't have the ball in the location I need it. So, but a player like Orr with her physical ability and her potential, right? She has this unlimited potential, but the actual ability right now is not where it needs to be. And I hope in the off season that there's that work, that she and the coaching staff have that plan and that work to get her there. I have high hopes.
Another quick one from Brian, and then we want to double back to what Matt said. We just relived the broken heart. Brian saying that Akani leaving turned out to be huge. And
where did
Matt
she go?
said,
don't go there. It was Texas.
Oh yeah, are they still in it?
Yeah, Texas is the number 1 seed, and they just beat Marquette tonight in 4, so they're in the next round on Saturday.
And I know we already touched on this, but since it's we're talking volleyball and we're getting some volleyball comments, figure we'd at least highlight them. Matt says it hurt that they couldn't substitute at the end of the 4th set. And again, it's just because they're limited on substitutions, and they ran out at that point. And we talked about the rotation. We mentioned, I'm not going to call them the Evil Empire. We'll just call them Evil with the horns that are long. But who do you, now that Nebraska's not in it and you get to watch without any bias, maybe that's not entirely true, but you get to watch the rest of the tournament, Who do you think will win? Who do you want to win? Now, we know you don't want Wisconsin to win. We got to double back to that.
We don't need to shout that to the rooftops. I have preferences.
We could.
We should.
It's okay.
So Ohio State had an upset today. Ohio State, Minnesota played. Ohio State was the 3, Minnesota was the 2, and Ohio State won it in 4. So they faced Texas, the number 1 overall seed, on Saturday. I like Ohio State. I got to go to Devaney with my oldest daughter, and we watched Ohio State in person, the first matchup between Nebraska and Ohio State, and my eardrums were ringing for days, and it was just Nebraska won that match, and it was amazing. So, but I like Ohio State. I like Jen Flynn Oldenburg as their head coach. They just play, they play, and the weight of the world is not on their shoulders. So I like Ohio State. I'm cheering for them. San Diego is a underdog. They feel like they should have been a number 1 seed, but they're outside the Bigs conference team, and so they got a number 2 seed, and they're probably going to match up with Stanford if Stanford beats Houston in the late night match tonight. So, they're a long shot to beat Stanford. Stanford's back in their form, and they've got some really talented players. So, Stanford could win, but that's a little boring. Stanford wins volleyball a lot. Wisconsin beat Penn State in 5 tonight, which was surprising that it went 5, but Penn State really pushed them. And so Wisconsin's the 1 seed in their corner, and Penn State was the 4. So Wisconsin will play Pitt on Saturday. I think Wisconsin's going to win. They just find a way to do that, and they win. And, they do it emphatically, but I don't think they do it with a ton of I don't feel the love. If I'm to explain my trouble with, I don't feel the love in Wisconsin. They play and they win, but it feels like a manufacturing of the win.
Like they're robot women.
They're athletes, and I respect them, but I don't end up cheering.
But they're robots.
Those are your words.
Phil's pulling for anyone but Wisconsin or Texas.
Okay, he's with me. Phil's with me.
What about?
And then that last corner is Louisville and Oregon, the team that. So I like Louisville a lot. Everybody knows, or hopefully you remember, Danny Busboom Kelly, a former player and coach for Nebraska, as their head coach, and she's been phenomenal there. So no woman coach has ever won a title in women's volleyball.
I did not know this.
Your minds are blown, and they should be. So that would be great. San Diego's head coach is a woman, or Ohio State's head coach is a woman. And that's it for the teams that are remaining. All the other head coaches are men, which are great. Men can be great head coaches too. But it is ridiculous that a woman has never been the head coach of a women's team to win the title.
Yeah, Greg.
Everybody's nodding their head.
Don't you throw me under the bus for it. I just want to talk more about
I didn't know anything about this. I never thought of it, honestly. So,
I more about how Beth hates Wisconsin, but
I think that everybody who's watching this, everybody who will watch this, who is a Husker fan, I'll give you that. Other people come in here, Michigan fans, everybody else, will be cheering for Danny Busboom because she was wonderful when she was at Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Brian with a good comment here about Wisconsin. He says Wisconsin reminds me of a Soviet bloc. Steroid era women's athletic team. They are just beasts. And I'm going to paraphrase what Beth said before we rolled. So I'm taking her off the hook. No joy. There's no joy in the Madison volleyball locker room.
Maybe they get a bigger apartment if they win.
Maybe. I don't know how any of that works.
But Louisville's fun to talk about. They are exciting. They are generally smaller in height, but they play spunky, and they have some players that just lights out. They come to play. They're business, right? They're not la 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 out in the court, but they come to play, and being undersized, I like watching Louisville too. I like Busboom Kelly, and I cheer for her because of that Nebraska connection. But I also like her team, and I like the way they play. So, and they came close last year too. You know, they're not a surprise to be here. They're a number 1 seed, and nobody argues that.
Fred, from watching on YouTube, putting Wisconsin in the Ivan Drago role. If he dies, he dies. So we're all on board
wow,
with
that's what that is.
disdain
Okay.
of Wisconsin. And we thank you, Fred, for that, and everybody for joining us on the volleyball. Beth, it was great having you.
We're not. I didn't get to ask my questions.
Bye.
I just want to know what the trajectory you see is. I mean, this year, you know, there were some tweets I read about BTN had taken a chance on volleyball and it paid off because of the rising audience. And, you know, it seems like is the sport just exploding in popularity, or is it just the same stuff we're hearing? You know, like last year they could have said the same thing and it might be true. What do you think? I mean,
Well, I think that some of those comments came from a Wall Street Journal article. I was reading that,
really?
and that BTN had run some statistics and put almost every game. So I think your question has, because they're talking about it, isn't it true? You know, media is going to spin media, and it's going to. I mean, we're talking about it now, and they're talking about it, and they're talking about it. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's keep talking about it. You know, coaches were mad last year after the women's basketball, and the women's basketball stuff spun over to the women's volleyball. And let's just keep talking about it. We are talking about it because we want to watch more of it. You had it on your phone today at 10 o'clock in the morning because you wanted to watch it. And so part of it might just be hype and talk, but because we're talking about it, doesn't it lead to caring about it or more people caring about it? I sure like to watch volleyball, but that's been true for 20 years. So
right.
I will teach anybody and talk to anybody about volleyball. I will sit next to you at a community college game, a high school game, at a Nebraska game, and I will talk to you about volleyball, and I will share my love of volleyball with you. And I think that's contagious, and I think that it's an easy thing to catch too, because volleyball is exciting. It has phenomenal athletes. It has a variety of athletes. Some people are getting injured, but they're not the same level of injury as some other sports. The contact is very limited.
Too soon, Beth. Too soon.
Concussions are happening in volleyball, but they're not the same level. So I think volleyball is an excellent sport. It's because we're talking about it, I think it's gaining popularity, and I think
it just has a different level of sportsmanship in volleyball. And I think there was a little bit on the news last night, I think, about some former Nebraska players playing for another team, women's basketball, got her hair pulled from behind and went after the other girl. I mean, that's kind of a thing that doesn't belong in a lot of sports when people go after each other physically. But I guess what I'm trying to say in volleyball, the sportsmanship level is extremely high. There's a lot of respect among players. You don't see, maybe not, you don't see any snark hardly at all, which is okay. That's good. Where the hell am I going with this? I guess I'm gonna go back to that thing I told you guys before the show. When I was shooting at Maturi Pavilion to the NCAA tournament in Minnesota, and Oregon knocked off Minnesota, and I sat and listened to the Oregon coach for a while, and he didn't talk about Oregon were the greatest. He talked about what a experience or what a privilege it was to coach against Hugh McCutcheon and John Cook, two great coaches. And I just, that stuck out to me. And then who got hurt this year that the girls all gathered together and prayed after the game? It was a Northwestern girl.
Yeah, that was a Northwestern setter. Yeah. Well, I think the thing about volleyball in any sport is let your game speak, right? Like, you play and you win and you beat them. And I don't need to pull your hair if I'm beating you. And I don't need to, but you're right. Volleyball, the biggest smack talk, like a stare down or you don't trash talk because I'm just going to beat you or I'm just going to win the game. And so that should speak for itself. And that's I think the most poignant statement anyways.
I've got this comment up here from Owen. He says Sam McCune was saying they should put in a stump rule where if a team reaches 21 points and the other team is down by 6, they should end the match. He said it would be good for the sport. Beth, when we talk about rule changes, I don't think you're probably in favor of something like that. I mean, it's only good for the sport if it benefits your team, right?
If you're down by 6, I mean, what was Nebraska down by in the 5th game tonight?
It was like
this morning.
What the hell?
Or something, wasn't it?
Is that a real comment? I just figured that out. I thought he meant 21-6.
If it's 21-6,
down by 6, come on, that's the stupidest fucking comment ever. It's really a dipshitted comment. It is. Because, I mean, one of the reasons we watch for sports are the most amazing comebacks ever. You know what I mean? You're down by 6, you can't win. You know what that is? That's a comment by a guy who watches sports and had never played them and been competitive in his life. I like Sam. He's a nice guy, but holy shit. I just was looking at that for a while when you said down by 6. I went, what? I thought it meant 21-6. See how bad my reading skills are terrible too. But
runs in volleyball happen, and so 6 would be too close. I wouldn't agree with that. Yeah, 6 is too close. The run for Nebraska today was something like that, 6. But yeah, I mean, if it matches 21-6, yeah, I can. The probabilities, right? Like, let's run some statistics. The probability of winning that match, or when you get to 24-10, the probability of winning that match is this much. So there's something there, but 6 is too close. And that is the point when a team buckles down and you start sweating because they're coming back.
You read that?
Owen followed up saying that he was saying that because a match went over 3 hours, and he guesses Sam doesn't like volleyball. So again, these are not Owen's words. We're not picking on Owen. We're picking on Sam. But we do love Emily because we actually.
Probably one of the greatest. I mentioned this before. One of the greatest sporting events I've been to is the 41-39 set that Oregon beat Minnesota with, and that had to be it was the most amazing thing ever because both teams, you have to win by 2, and by the end of the night, I was at Maturi Pavilion. By the end of the night, everyone in that entire arena was completely exhausted. They were physically and emotionally exhausted. I'm not just talking the players. You could tell the fans were exhausted because of the emotion, the up and down. They were Minnesota fans and they ended up losing. And it just sucked all the life out of the building. It was amazing. And I think when you can get a sport where it's like that, I mean, I don't get the good for the sport thing because quite frankly, those are the moments people live for in sports. I said it before. The impossible, the things that are crazy. Oh my God, this comeback. We talk about for years later, we talk about some baseball game in college that went 25 innings and the water boys had to start pitching. People remember that stuff forever. So I don't know. Shocking.
I was exhausted after the 4th set today, 32-30. I was exhausted, and then you take that into the 5th set, and then Nebraska starts making you believe again when it's 11-15 or 11-14. At that point, we ended up losing 11-15. But we went on that run, and you started to believe when they got to 10 and 11. And Krause's just stone faced, right? She blocks a ball, and she's just like, "Let's do this. Let's go." She's not celebrating. There's nothing to celebrate. We've just gotten one more point. We have more work. So yes, those comebacks and the marathons are exhausting, but also while you watch and what gives you adrenaline as a fan, not only as a player.
Vince sums it up pretty nicely. Sam needs to hit the transfer portal. Beth, John, do you have any more questions?
Oh, well, I'm trying to think of some. I probably do. You know what? We should have her on more often.
We should.
We should
can
have
join us,
We
Beth.
should be planning far enough ahead that we have like designated volleyball night, so that people want to hear about Beth's volleyball. Beth, tell everybody your experience in volleyball.
I played volleyball.
For
I played volleyball for Army West Point. So, and then I played while I was in the Army some of the time when they would let me when I wasn't doing other Army things. And then I came back and I coached at Army as well in my free time. And now I write articles for Coronation.
So we have a person who does our volleyball stuff who has both played the game at a high level and coached it. And I would, Lauren Cook might be the other person in all of Nebraska media you could say that about. I know BTN and Big Ten Network, they have volleyball players and stuff on there. But come on, give yourself a lot of credit. We should have a volleyball night.
Well, and I love, I love the sport of volleyball. I love sports in general, but I love the sport of volleyball. It has a lot of the dynamics of team and that I love. So yeah, I loved playing volleyball and I loved coaching volleyball, and I like writing about it. But I'd rather be playing, if I'm really honest with you.
Brian has a question for you, Beth. Do you think Coach Cook rides or dies with Orr or Bergen Riley at setter next year, or if he brings in a setter through the portal?
He's really railed against the portal, especially in the last couple of days. Terry Pettit has also been very vocal on Twitter against, and not against the portal, but just qualifying that this isn't the ultimate solution to everyone's problems. The portal can't solve your problem and your problem and your problem. So I would be surprised if Coach Cook brings in a setter, but he accepted a transfer portal this year. Caitlin Horde came to us through the portal, and she was a great contributor, both physically and, leadership-wise for the team based on the players' comments. My gut is that he puts Orr in the gym with him this summer, whatever the NCAA allows, and they just put in the work. Her ability to get her feet to the ball and to pass over from very athletic and capable setter to athletic and Division I top level setter. There's a transition there. She has the ability to do it, but she hasn't done it yet. I think he's going to put in the time with her this summer and this fall, whatever, this off season, and go with Orr because she has the experience of the couple years in the program. But I don't know Bergen Riley very well. It's hard to watch those high school players.
Deion says the next year or two are rebuilds in volleyball. More speculation, I think, than says no setter and too many new faces. Any thoughts on that?
I think the only place that there's a new face is the setting position. We've got, returning Allie Batenhorst, Lindsay Krause, Whitney Lauenstein. Those are pivotal and very important players, and they've got more growth in front of them. Becca Alex returning in the middle. Lexi Rodriguez is in the back row. So I think we have some, 5 starters there. The setting position is very big, and so there's a huge question mark there. I think we have some players that can move into the middle. So I don't think it's a rebuilding year. I think answering the setter question is very important because if we're honest, it really never got answered this year. Nicklin Hames played and continued to do what she did for the last 4 years before this one. But yes, the setter question has to be answered because Nicklin Hames can't play next year.
By the way, while we're talking about having you on again down the road, Deion said, for volleyball night, Deion says bowling, wrestling, and baseball night too. So, John, they want us to diversify our portfolio, basically.
Well, we have guys to talk about. Well, we don't have bowling, unfortunately. No. But we do have guys that know wrestling and baseball extremely well. So, maybe we will. Going forward, we should just designate we're going to have this sport cover that a little heavier.
When we got back to talking about your resume, Beth, and your quick answer about it, that got Fred. He thought that was a great answer. Just you're like, I played volleyball. Yep. We love that. Also, Matt said you're a great guest and thanks for being on. And Brian echoed all of those thoughts. A lot of positivity in the comments. Great having you on the show, Beth. Thanks to us for our idea, John. You're welcome, Brian. You're welcome. And somewhere in there, Josh said thank you for your service, Beth. I didn't highlight this one. So thank you for your service, and that he's going to give you a crisp $5 bill if you kick me in the shins next time you see me. So I don't know.
I'll double it.
I don't know if that's $5 per shin or probably worth it. So I guess I got that to look forward to. So we do thank you very much, Beth, for coming on, and we know again a couple more positive feedback, which is always great. We have the best viewers in all of sports podcast and live streaming. So that they geez, Fred, stop! I'm trying to be nice to you, and you want me to get kicked in the shins. Goes to show that I blame Josh.
Physical violence is unexpected. I didn't know.
And there he is. Josh is $10 per shin now. So, all right, Beth. I'm sure there's more volleyball that you are eager to get back to. Plus, you also have small children to tend to. So, we really do thank you. You've been a blast, always enlightening. And again, we'll have it on when it's not the day of the last match of the season. So,
or at least one that we win.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Beth. Thank you.
All right. Merry Christmas. Thanks. Go Big Red.
All right. That is Beth Merrigan. And again, check out all of her great writing, cornation.com, where she covers volleyball better than anybody. So, all right, John.
Yes? At this rate, we may be able to raise money for charity kicking you in the shins.
Oh, great. All right. Well, let's talk about Nebraska football. We were supposed to have a basketball guest, and I've been ghosted.
Oh my goodness!
I'll tell you what. Can I get permission to throw shade, John, on my own podcast, on my own show?
Yeah.
We used to have a Nebrasketball podcast called Bangerangs and Daggers.
We did.
And they have lives and things like that, and it's tough to get all three of them in a couple different time zones together to record. So that went by the wayside. But we were going to have one of those founding podcast members, Patrick Gerhardt, on the show to talk about Nebrasketball. We were going to touch on the Indiana loss last night, but mostly we were going to say that Nebraska's 1-0 against Creighton. And but Patrick's not checking in. So let's just talk about some football. I think there's some folks here in the comment section in the chat tonight that want to talk a little bit about Nebraska football. And defensive coordinator was named. So that's addition.
What is his name?
John.
What?
Seriously? You don't know?
It blinked out. It's the old man. The World War II was awful. That kind of shit.
Tony White.
Tony White. I was looking up Tommy White or Tommy Shaw. That's not even close. My God. Okay. Tony White.
He comes to us from Syracuse, where he had a top 30 defense nationally and I think number 19 passing defense. And a lot of the comments here, I didn't highlight them all, but his strategy, I guess, or the way he's been structuring his defenses at Syracuse is a 3-3-5. Now that conflicts slightly with what Matt Rule's been talking to recruits about, and you can see that it's in some Twitter posts and things like that where they're talking about, he's saying Nebraska's going to be running a 4-3. I think we have learned the error of our ways with the 3-4. And I know it was a bit of a hybrid 3-4, but I feel like in the Big Ten, you almost have to go 4-3, don't you?
Well, I was going to say as a joke, did you know that Defensive Coordinators Association requires when you first become a defensive coordinator, you are stuck with a formation forever that you ran that year. So he's only capable of running a 3-3-5 per Defensive Coordinator Association rules from now on for the rest of his life. It's a terrible joke. I could have set it up better. But, if I did it as a YouTube short or
unions, John.
An Instagram short, if I did that as an Instagram short, people would take it serious and they'd all shit themselves. Anyway, what the hell did you ask me? Oh, 4-3. You know what I think? I think that we label these things so we know how to talk about them, those of us that don't do this stuff. You know what I mean? Put it this way. How you're going to defensively align and what you're going to do in your defense is going to change for Purdue versus what it is versus Minnesota versus Northwestern versus Ohio State. Against Purdue, a 3-3-5 type of situation might be great. So it's kind of a misnomer that we're going to run this and we're going to run this. And, that's why the joke about this getting stuck in people's head, that it's some kind of formation that's static. And it really doesn't, and it changes.
Fluid, right?
Well, kind of, yeah. Your opponents are different throughout the season.
Phil Spear makes a good point. Problem with 4-3 is all the linemen, the hardest position to fill. We have learned that, Phil.
Well, we also, there was nothing in that guy we fired. There was nothing in him that ever prioritized linemen. So, I think that's up to the people to go get the people.
Oh, sure. And I believe Tony White has some recruitment coordinator experience as well coming in. So Brian says people worry too much about that 3 number. It's all about scheme and the Jimmies and Joes. Garrett Nelson fits as a linebacker in a 3-3-5 and can be on the line in a 4 front or at linebacker. And Deion says that he was watching some of White's defense, and he had 4 and 5 guys on the line quite a bit. So, you know what? I think I like that approach where it's not, a fixed 3-4 or 4-3. You have to be able to make adjustments, and you have to be able to scheme, John, to your point, to your opponent,
Yeah. And you have to have the depth and the players to kind of do that stuff. What's our goal? The goal is to be a championship team, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
you need to be a championship team, you got to have guys across the board. You can't just go, we have shit tons of linebackers and safeties, so we're going to run this defense. Your recruiting coordination and all of your stuff is aligned, so you are constantly making sure that your depth allocation is the same across every position group. That's what I would think. If you're going to run a team that's going to win.
Phil, with a little more, I think, speculation than anything, he says, I think Rule is looking ahead to when UCLA and USC join.
Well, Tony White was a grad assistant. He started his career, I think, at UCLA. Let's look it up. Yes, if you want to say college, UCLA 2007 graduate assistant. He's 43 years old, 6'1", 250 pounds. Just, not massive. Key West, he's from Key West, Florida. Did you want me to go into his likes and dislikes? And turn-ons and turn-offs?
Favorite color, favorite food, and is he a beer or bourbon guy?
Well, since he's at Nebraska, his favorite freaking colors better be scarlet and cream.
And his favorite food better be runs, and he better like
Bush Light.
Light.
Right. Son of a bitch knows what's good for him.
I feel like we should, in copycorn.com, by the way, where you can get that sweet, sweet jumpsuit that John's wearing, We should have like a shirt that's the Nebraska fan starting pack, and it's like a picture of runs and a picture of Busch Light.
Yeah, I agree.
Bill, with an interesting question. I have to address this. John, where are you at on pineapple on pizza?
Did somebody put it in front of me, and is it free?
Oh, there you go. Okay, fine.
I'm not. I am not picky about food anymore. If it's right there and I'm hungry, that's what I'm gonna eat, and I'm not gonna complain about it. I would take pineapple and pizza, however, and I would put a lot of red pepper flakes on it. Or if I had it something, or if I had a hot sauce available, that is a perfect pizza for hot sauce.
I'm gonna shift focus on that. Those of you in the comments, just a quick yes or no, pineapple on pizza. And while you answer that, I'm gonna share this story because we have a pizza place, a locally owned pizza place here in my town. It's called Benny's Pizza Pub. Great beer, fantastic pizza. And Fred says John Pizza Whore Johnston. I think we got a new name for you. But the first time I went there, I was really curious about this one type of pizza that they had. It's the pizza you can get by the slice. By the way, the slice is a quarter of the pizza. They call it the Hawaiian Hog Pizza. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's your traditional pizza crust with a barbecue sauce instead of, like a red sauce. They do have cheese on it. They have pulled pork, bacon, sliced red onions, and thinly sliced jalapenos, and chunks of juicy pineapple. I was a no pineapple on pizza guy, and then I tried this. Now, I don't put pineapple on all pizza. That's ridiculous. But I don't miss the Hawaiian Hog Pizza when I go there. I always get the Hawaiian Hog Pizza. So, if you're ever in Belleville, Illinois, folks, seriously, Phil's on board. Yeah.
Let's be honest. The people who hate pineapple on pizza are just angry about fruits and vegetables anyway.
You know what they say? Wisdom or knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom's not putting tomato in the fruit salad, something like that. So, all right. So a lot of people say no pineapple on pizza, and that's okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about. We've got some. Oh, Fred, that's not nice, Fred. We have. I gotta talk about this.
What do you got to talk about?
Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
And I between his press conference and his addressing his team, what a combination of arrogance. I mean, it's classic primetime, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is.
I mean, I guess that's his. I don't call it shtick, but that's been his personality. And I don't dislike Deion Sanders for a minute there, because that's what James said. He said, did you guys watch the Deion press conference in Boulder? The thought that people wanted him to come to Lincoln is mind-boggling. I was like, well, let's give it a shot, right? Not seriously, but it would really shake up some things. Man, I feel like we dodged a massive bullet with that, because he's coming in. He's already named his son as the starting quarterback.
He said he's going to compete.
Is that I maybe I misinterpreted or misheard the quote. I thought he was like he's going to be the starting quarterback, QB1 or something like that.
Well, he said that, and then he said he's going to compete.
He walked it back. Okay.
So you're kind of like, yeah, I don't. I mean, then what? He told everybody you might as well leave and get in the transfer portal.
Right.
Now. Well,
yeah, that's a bold statement.
It's a really stupid statement, is what it is. You don't even know these people yet,
Exactly.
and you've told them to leave. So I think his problem is he gonna, he's all about I'm gonna recruit. Well, okay, good. It's time to show it at Colorado, because good luck, buddy. You don't even have a budget. They don't even have money to pay you. I realize he doesn't need anybody, any money, but wow, yeah, pretty.
James said that Deion set the roster on fire and alienated the locker room on one day, and wow, makes Frost look like a nice guy. I do think, and I was listening to John and Todd's Monday Night Therapy, probably Tuesday if I'm being honest, but I was listening to it, and the quality of players he got at Jackson State, well, he's going to be taking that quality of player. I mean, they were playing at a lower level of competition, so he's going to be taking, top-notch players, but he's going to be putting them up against top-notch players.
Yeah.
Because Washington is, not a. I mean, I don't think they were as strong this year, but USC, at least for the brief amount of time they'll be in the same conference, I think there's going to be a real come to Jesus moment where reality is going to smack him in the face and be like, oh, maybe I should have come in with a little bit more humility than I did. But that's, I mean, again, he's where he's at because of the personality he has, and he's always had it. I'm not knocking the guy, but humility's never really been his style.
Nope.
So
we'll see what happens there. Jim Leonard's leaving Wisconsin. That's what I wanted to remember.
I'm glad you did. Real quick before we change topics off that, Fred asked, bottom line, do we beat Colorado next year? Deion hype train be damned. Well, we know that Colorado's begging fans not to sell their tickets to Nebraska fans, which is a little hilarious.
You know what? I'll just say, yeah, we beat Colorado because we still have a team.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not have been the greatest players that we've ever had in our careers, but we have a team that is, largely, even though there's been some portal transfer guys, they've largely stayed. They've largely just stayed together. We don't hear about 50 players are leaving or something. People freak out on the ones that do, but largely our team is intact and maybe can be coached up going forward into next year. So, Colorado, what are they even going to have for a team then? I mean, is he going to go back to him later and said, yeah, I said that as a joke? It's not something you say as a joke.
That's not something you joke about. No, and that's the thing too. He's not going to be able to flip that roster in one off season. Like he's not going to be able to get 80 guys or whatever the magic number is in to Boulder to start things over from scratch. So he's going to have some of the guys who he just talked down to and maybe embarrassed a little. I don't know. I would say it. Obviously, I mean, look, I've still got the damn list here for the 2022 season where I had Nebraska going 12-0. So, it's a little early for season predictions, but I can almost guarantee that when we're sitting down before that first game of the year, Minnesota game, then I'll be like, yeah, no, I think we got a shot to run the table again.
Yeah, and Colorado has like 20 scholarship players that have to go both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's do a little bit better job focusing on Nebraska, shall we? Deion was, during our volleyball conversation, Deion was making sure that I had some good football comments to pin, and he said that he hears we have some great portal guys coming in for visits, and he went on to say an edge rusher from Texas A&M, the number one rated offensive tackle, and Jeff Sims, starting Georgia Tech quarterback, who's fast and throws really well. At this point, anybody who can help, right, John?
Is that? I thought the Texas A&M Aggie dude was out or not interested.
I'm just going by what Dan said.
Well, he's probably. I was out today doing stuff.
You had the neurological visit.
I did. Yeah.
How are you feeling? Let's
well, the headaches are strong.
And the CBD lozenges.
The THC helps actually with that. I will tell you, you went in, the AGV injections that they gave me have given me my life back. There's a secondary drug, though, it's called the Brovi that I only took 3 times. I have like maybe 100 pills in my basement worth $5,000, and I took 3 of them that were samples, and I hated them because they turned me into a zombie. But the guy is telling me, he goes, you could take these other drugs, and he named one of them. And right when he said the name, I had a shooting massive pain in the front of my head,
Wow.
and I screeched. So he goes like Immobrek or some damn thing, and I screech at him. And he looks at it, he just kind of sits there for a second, real quiet, and then he goes, so you've had a bad experience with that? Okay, and I'm telling this, it's not very good. Because, oh, God, I am kind of out of it.
We need to get Beth back. No.
Yeah, well, she was sharper than I am tonight, I can tell you that.
It's all good.
I mean, how long did I look at Sam McCune's thing and it said 20 down by 6, and I took that as 20. That's terrible. Okay.
Hey, John.
What?
It's all right. We all know you've been dead. Never been to Europe. Get the book on Amazon. So Phil says, maybe jokingly, not entirely sure, chain the offensive tackle to the statue outside the stadium until he signs. I mean, maybe it'll work. Maybe it's illegal. I don't know. Can it be illegal if you're offering him a scholarship, paying room and board and an opportunity to play in front of the greatest fans in college football? That can't be illegal, right?
Yeah, and you know what else? He could get some jerky with it.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and do it right now, John. Pipeline jerky. I've got the, of course it's upside down. I had 2 of each. I'm down to 1 of each now. So I've got the peppercorn beef jerky, and I've got the honey barbecue pork jerky. I was surprised. You were right on the money. It's jerky, but it's tender. It's not, you're not chewing on it all day long. Pipeline-jerky.com. Use the promo code CORNNATION and get 10% off your order of $25 or more.
They have gift boxes up now on their website.
Fantastic. Get one for John, everybody.
And they also have T-shirts up on their website.
So here's what I'll do. Here's the special offer that I'm going to extend to our viewers and listeners. If you send me an email, a tweet, whatever, you can DM me at the number 5 Heart Podcast on Twitter and say, I want to send John a gift box of jerky. I will give you his address.
Okay, that'll be weird.
No, it'd be fun. So anyway, no, you can't. It's not illegal to chain somebody to a statue as long as you're offering them, some type of recompense. So that's and then Phil says, good observation, good poll from Phil. Says Syracuse plays Minnesota in the bowl game. Our opening game, of course, is Minnesota. So we'll see a sneak preview of Tony White's defense.
Yeah, but keep in mind that's his defense against a team that runs 42 times a game. He's going to run the same three ISO plays over and over and over, like 42 times a game.
Well, that's fine. But
I guess we'll see this. Yeah, okay. See that? I guess we'll get a sneak preview of his defense against Minnesota next season. Probably the same defense against Iowa and Wisconsin. What are you doing?
I'm making sure you draw the line from A to B on where we were going with that comment.
Yeah, I am slow. I had prepared myself mentally for basketball with Patrick.
That's not.
I'm going to give him hell.
3 messages that have gone. Oh yeah, you know what? We don't know what happened. It could have been an emergency situation. We just hope everybody's okay, and we can always get Patrick on the show another time. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. Fred wants to know that if he buys jerky, will Bryce Benhart accidentally trip a pass rusher just once next season? Probably not. Well, can we talk about how the one holdover from the previous coaching staff is the one coach that everybody wanted to get rid of by like the Oklahoma game?
Right. Yeah, I don't. I did a video on this. I tried to. I guess you kind of try to look at it and go, what's the positives on that? Because those are what I want to think of. Because I mean, it's not like we get a choice. We don't get to like do a Twitter poll and go, no, hire somebody else. I mean, this is going to be our guy. Now, out of fairness to Donovan Raiola, I mean, he comes to Nebraska. It's the biggest shit show of coaching in his entire career. I mean, I wouldn't want to be judged on that. I'd be forever looking at those people and going, hey, fuck faces, you stuck me into hell, and you lied to me when I came in, and then you let this fuck run stuff into the ground, and you expected me to be a part of it, and then you just shipped me out the back. If I was him in that situation, I'd be really pissed off, and I'd be, But so I guess what I'm saying is give Peace a chance. We're going to just see what he can do. I don't think he's recruited much, but maybe somebody else is going to make up for that. Yeah, he was the one guy everybody expected to leave or wanted to leave. So
when we talk about Tony White, Brent Axe, who covers Syracuse football, had tweeted,
right.
Well, that one stings for SU. White made a huge difference for the Cuse football defense in the past few years. Some were hoping he'd be the next head coach here. Big hire for Matt Rule. So this is not a guy. I mean, there's no. I think we talked about this earlier. There's no previous association between the two. This was, which I'm fine with. I mean, we.
Wait. I don't think that's true. Wait, you know what? Remember where I said this new guy started his career?
UCLA.
In what year?
I don't know.
2007, I think I said. And if we go back, Matt Rule was at UCLA through 2001. 2007, he was back at Temple. So somewhere they crossed paths. Maybe they knew a fellow UCLA coaches or something like that. But it seems to me that UCLA, they both were at least UCLA.
Okay.
Right.
But still.
Other than that, I mean, yeah.
It's not bringing his best man along.
Right.
And all of his buddies. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's this. I feel like this is a coaching staff. You say what you want about Raiola. This is a coaching staff that is kind of sort of being built on merit, not on drinking buddy.
It kind of seems like that, doesn't it?
And I'm okay with that. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's an understatement. I'm okay with having good, competent assistant coaches around.
I agree with that. Okay.
Let's talk about the fact that Jim Leonard's, because I saw that name pop up in chat earlier during our visit with Beth. There was, I don't think, ever an offer extended to Jim Leonard from Nebraska.
I thought for a moment that they said he was going to be Luke Fickell's defensive coordinator, and I guess maybe you're right. Maybe there never was an offer. But he also said, I'm leaving. So yeah. I don't think it was, there's not an offer for me. I think it was just, I'm leaving.
But he's not leaving the area, from my understanding.
I don't know.
Well, let's talk about, we talked about some potential players coming in. We found out earlier today that Jacques Yant is in the transfer portal. And
yes.
I feel I'm mixed on this. I feel he was underutilized at times. I mean, we all know, he came in as a freshman, played in the spring game, had a great showing, went home, put on some weight, didn't come back really football ready. But I do feel like that was a lot of untapped potential. And I think wherever he ends up, I think he's going to do well. And that's good for him, bad for us.
I talked to him for a few minutes on the field at a spring game a while back. I'm going to not have these moments anymore. Anyway, seemed like a nice kid, but I don't mean to be rude, but I'll never forgive him for just diving on the ground at Minnesota 3 inches away from the goal line.
Oh,
I mean, I know he had a couple big runs in games, but that is the play that I will remember, I guess, when he just, instead of keeping upright, he either tripped. I don't think he tripped, but, we failed to score. Of course, we could probably hold these moments against all these guys forever. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Phil's all right with Yant leaving, says he doesn't fit here. I want to jump back here because Deion made a good comment about a little help for Raiola, saying that now we have 3 really offensive line coaches because both Matt Rule and Satterfield have experience at the offensive line position as well. So, talk about giving Raiola the opportunity to learn under some, more experienced voices and minds. Owen, jumping back, I don't mind going back and forth. Owen says Yant hurts, but do you think that's the drawback for having 8 running backs? It's hard to develop those players.
Yes.
It's definitely hard to give many of them any meaningful time. You know what I mean? And as soon as Anthony Grant kind of emerged as the front runner, you can't not feed the hot hand. I mean, you just like in basketball, if you've got a shooter that is feeling it, you've got to feed him until that fire goes away. Anthony Grant was the guy.
Yeah.
And then we ran into some better teams, and I mean, he didn't have as much success, but nobody did. You look at our running numbers, our rushing yard numbers and whatnot, the latter half of the season or the last 4 games, they were not good. We're talking about 45, 60 yards, something like that a game. That's nobody's going to see. I still would have liked to have seen more Ramir Johnson.
Yeah, well, okay. The thing about having 8 running backs is this: I think we had 8 probably really good running backs. Good backs that could start for a lot of teams in Division One, but we didn't have freaking 8 offensive linemen, and that goes back to the shitty job that we did for recruiting and trying to keep the positions or evaluations good across all the position groups. We kept getting running back. Why? Well, one of them will work. I mean, okay, I probably should move on from the past, huh?
Phil says we must keep A.J. Allen. I know we've talked about that before. I know you and Todd have talked about that. And, yeah, we all definitely hope that Ramir gets more involved in the near future. And Deion says, not only do we have several coaches with offensive line coaching experience, but we have a few coaches. We mentioned this before. Tony White is a recruiting coordinator, has recruiting coordinator experience as well. So that's good. I mean, we talk about the young man that we just got a commitment from, the track star out of Texas, right? I mean, he runs, he's one of the fastest kids, and that plays into the Matt Rule mindset of speed. If you got a kid who, maybe I'm oversimplifying things, and I apologize if somebody thinks I am, but if you got a kid who's fast enough and athletic enough, you can find a spot for him.
Yeah, that's true.
And so excited for look, I'm excited for any kid who wants to, any young man, I guess, who wants to come to Nebraska. I want to say more the merrier, but we found out in the old regime that's not necessarily the case. But yeah, this is, I think, Matt Rule and company now. Now that he's rounded out his staff, I believe it's them putting together I'm sure they're still talking with current Huskers and saying, this is what we're planning. Either you fit this or you don't, or we think you fit this. Do you want to be a part of it, type of thing? It's going to be. We got 8 months.
Yeah, we do.
It's going to be another long off season. John, are you ready for another long off season?
Well, I'm just gonna fill it with basketball and baseball.
Okay. What are you going to do in June?
Uh, I'm gonna. What do you want from me? It's June. God, it's a long ways away.
I'm sorry, John. It's all my fault, really. It is. Any I mean, questions? Comments here right now about Yant and just maybe the mental side of things. I think he had at one point had all the attributes physically, but maybe there are a few mental roadblocks. So we'll see. Right now, again, we've still got, to best of my knowledge, Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, A.J. Allen, Gabe Irvin.
Emmett Johnson, was it? Kid from
Emmett
Minnesota.
Johnson. There will be more. I mean, there are more, and we'll just have to see. John, have you watched any good movies lately?
You know what I was gonna do? I was gonna do something like coming up, like Monday with Todd and I, asking people that same question. And I'd say, All Quiet on the Western Front is
I remember
one
you
of the
talking
best.
about that. Yeah,
It's one of the best movies I've seen in I think in a long time. But it's
remake,
it's
right?
not. Well, it's. I mean, if you consider a remake from 1930, I mean, it's based off probably the biggest anti-war book of all time, along with Johnny Got His Gun. Uh, it's. I mean, it's hard to watch. It's not going to be a feel-good story, I'll tell you that. But it's very well done.
I watched 2 movies this past week. One is available on Hulu, and the other is on Netflix. One's that's not old. It's 8 or 10 years old, and then the other one's just from this year. I watched The Judge, which is Robert Downey Jr. and what the.
I'm infecting you.
I'm having a John moment. I need some prep. Gosh dang it! I can.
Tommy Shaw.
Robert Duvall.
Oh well, that's not the same. They're not the same. Tommy Shaw
It's
and
not
Robert
at all.
Duvall.
It's a good movie. It's a little kind of like small town law, movie. It's good, intense, and emotional at times. And the other one I watched was just fun. Was Bullet Train. It's on Netflix now. The movie that came out earlier this year, starring Brad Pitt among others. Bloody, fun, action. Not Judge Fudge. That's How I Met Your Mother. Owen. Don't think I don't know that.
Bullet Train.
Bullet Train.
It's
Takes place
dumb
in,
action. Bullet Train and The Judge.
Yep.
Okay.
Couple different ones. Different ends of the movie spectrum there. But what else we got to talk about, John? It's been almost an hour and a half.
It has. Yeah.
What happened with Nebrasketball last night?
Well, Sam Greasel didn't play.
That'll do it.
That's really what it comes down to. I think that, he's the player that Fred Hoiberger has been missing. And that game started out like, I don't know, 25-7 or something like that, with us in a terrible shooting hole, and it took us a while. I think to the Nebraska's testament, they never really fell apart. I don't think they lost their confidence. I think it was clear that, Indiana was all around better than we were. But I guess I'm saying I expected them without Sam Greasel, quite frankly. I thought they'd get beat by 35 or 40, because that's the kind of shit that happens when you play at some of these Big Ten venues. And, they didn't do horrible. In fact, they, made a surge in the second half. And Derek Sam Greasel, Derek Walker, they stay healthy. And this team can win some games. I mean, we'll just see what happens. Number 4, Purdue coming in Sunday. So that's going to be huge. Hopefully Sam Greasel is okay before this game. So
Brian says that Fred needs to find another Greasel next year to replace the one he's got. You mentioned Derek Walker, who really helped elevate Nebraska's game, prior to the loss to Indiana. But I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're 1-0 against Creighton.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
That felt not only that, but that was number 7 Creighton.
Yeah.
Past 10.
And Sunday we
Creighton
get number 4 Purdue at home, so we'll see what happens.
Nice signature win for Fred to pick that one up. Yep, Deion, to answer your question, barring something unforeseen, Fred will be here next year because he got a particular monkey off his back. You continue to build on that, you win a game in March, and they'll put a statue out front.
I just think Fred Hoiberg is a good coach. I think, he tried some of his other stuff, and now he's completely 180 degrees switched gears, and it's not probably going to be the greatest thing ever, but maybe if he keeps doing this and keep get 1 or 2 big guys a year or something, we could at least win some games. That's like get to 500 in the conference, get to the NCAA tournament, get some opportunities to actually win that game. And I think Fred Hoiberger will be here next year just because he's going to win enough games and be good enough.
How important is it, though, that mentality where you adjust your game plan to the personnel that you have rather than trying to shoehorn your game plan into players that don't necessarily fit it, which is what we've seen from other Nebraska coaches in the recent memory.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the team, they all play together last year. It looked like they were trying to force so much, and then, stuff would fall apart, and then we moved to hero ball. This team, even without Sam Griesel, I think that's the thing about the Indiana game. Once you watch them, I mean, they missed him a lot because he could provide some scoring. But you also, that's the important part about the team not coming apart, is that even without their guy that was the leader on the floor all the time, they still were managed to run the offense. They still managed to score points against Indiana. Yeah, they lost, but they still, I think, played good basketball, and they played disciplined basketball. They just weren't, they weren't as good, and the shots didn't fall in the beginning of the game.
I think going back to that hero ball, I mean, that's what happens when you have a second round draft pick, on your team, like we had with Bryce McGowan's last year, in an unfamiliar territory that Nebraska was in. If you look at a Kentucky or a North Carolina or something like that, where their roster's stacked with draft picks, hero ball, everybody can be a hero, But when you're relying on one guy, and we saw, what was it, right at the end of the season, right? Didn't he get hurt last year?
Bryce, yeah.
Yeah, so then you don't have a hero for hero ball. And having the more complete, more well-rounded team, I think, is always, more beneficial. So, Aaron, another one of our great contributors at Core Nation, says that women's basketball had a dominant week as well. Wrestling competed well over the weekend. No Todd here or a Dylan to talk about that. I've talked with Dylan. I tried getting Dylan and Todd to do a wrestling-specific podcast for Core Nation, and Dylan doesn't have the time. But that doesn't mean he won't pop in from time to time. I think he will. We'll have more of these, guest stars, so to speak, on the show as we go further along the postseason. We'll get guys like Brian on to maybe break down some offense and defense from these new coaches. Haas, I anticipate, will come back eventually, but he did just get a new job. Got hired on at a big reputable place in Omaha that I'm probably not at liberty to say. So he's trying to settle into his new normal. But John, we've gone an hour and a half.
Yeah, we have.
And you're tired and old.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm tired and not quite as old. But we just appreciate everybody for joining us. The volleyball volleyball chat was great. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't anticipate it to go 45 minutes, but Beth bringing the knowledge. Owen, Dr. Offense, that's Haas. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but he had to take some time off because a buddy of his got hurt in a work-related accident and unfortunately didn't survive. So he was down for that. It's not really my story to tell, but since you asked. And like I said, now he's got the new job. So we hope that he comes back. I think he will eventually after he kind of settles in. So that's where Dr. Offense has been. So that, I think, John, let's call it a show.
That's good.
Yeah, because it's late and we're old. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Again, we went off script a little bit and didn't talk football for the first half of the show, but again, Beth was a terrific guest, and we'll do more volleyball, we'll do more basketball, wrestling, we'll do more guests as we go through the off season, and we got to get women's basketball in here. We got to get Jill to talk women's basketball in here too, because Aaron was right. They're playing some top-notch level basketball right now. So we appreciate that you all enjoyed the guests that we had tonight, and we'll keep doing it. But John and I will always be here. Or John will at least always be here, and I'll be here as my work schedule allows. But we appreciate all of you. Like we've said numerous times, whether there's 2 or 3 of us, you're always the other leg of the table that helps make this show what it is. So thank everybody for watching and being a part of the show and all of your contributions. So for John Dam Johnston, for Beth Merrigan, who was here to talk volleyball with us again earlier, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is the 5 Heart Podcast, where we remind you each and every week that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red.
And win whatever sporting contest we're due to win next. Purdue on Sunday.
Purdue, yeah, that'd be good. That would be a huge win.
We'll take it. Yeah, two in-state wins over 2 top 10 teams.
Yeah,
that's what it would be. See you, folks.